Hi, and welcome to kidneycoach.com YouTube. Information provided by the amazing
Dr. Matt Lyon.
And I'm Fiona, naturopath from Australia. The accent. It's my, do you remember Beetlejuice? It's my Beetlejuice.
This little Beetlejuice.
It's Beetlejuice. So we wanted to talk today about the amazing immune system and ways that we can help boost, for want of a better word, immune function. For those that are worried about maybe if their immune system's a bit lowered through chronic stress, diabetes, we know lowers immune function. Kidney disease is often a change in immune function there. So we wanted to talk about some natural ways and things that you can do at home to help boost your immune system, especially when we are in the colder months, if you're in the northern part of the world, and Australia will eventually head into the colder months too. So we just wanted to cover up some information that we think might be super useful just to help boost your immune system and get those white blood cells functioning the way that they should.
Yeah. You know, when we talk about the immune system, one thing that's important to realize and recognize if you're watching this is always think to yourself, okay, which part of the immune system? So there's different parts. I like to keep it simple and say the first part of your immune system that we want to bolster and tonify is what's called the innate system. So it's just in there. It doesn't really have much of a memory. And these are your thugs, right? These are the guys that are going to be like, hey, virus. Bup, 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 bup. Hey, bacteria. I don't know kung fu here, but you get the idea. They are just your first line of defense. And then there's this amazing part of your immune system that has a memory. That's why your immune system is really just an extension of your nervous system. And this is the part of the immune system that has memory. There's other parts too, but if we just keep it simple and say, we want the part that's your first line of defense strong. Then we want to have a strong memory. So if similar things come along, you don't get it again. And then you've got a part of the immune system that can sort of regulate and quell the fires of inflammation, but also get rid of stuff you don't need. That's cool. So this is a really relevant and important topic right now. At the time of filming this, it is New Year's Day, 2021, and the immune system is all the rage. So we're going to talk about truly evidence-based ways to tonify and balance your immune system.
We certainly are. And, you know, apart from what the New Year's Eve and it being super important with the immune system, the other thing I think with kidney disease is we have some kidney disorders like IgA nephropathy, which is an autoimmune disease. And so that's where the immune system is now obviously depositing proteins that shouldn't be there inside the kidneys. And then if you've got something like lupus, which is also an autoimmune disease, that can also increase your risk of having kidney damage and things like that. So the immune system is a really important part to get in your body and under control and functioning really well. And we know in things like chronic autoimmune diseases like MS, lupus, and those sort of things, that poor old immune system and that balance that Matt was talking about just goes completely out of whack. And what often happens is the immune system gets stuck in a loop where it's just thinking it's chronically under assault from something, or maybe there is something like a stealth virus, retrovirus, or bacterial or fungal, or chronic candida that's stimulating the immune system the whole time, and that immune system just hasn't had the vitality or the energy to be able to clear an infection. So we want to look at things that will help boost the immune system if that's maybe something that's going on for you. And I know people with autoimmune diseases get a little bit scared when we say boost the immune system because they think, well, my immune system is overactive. But the way that a lot of herbs and things work is they're what we call amphoteric to the immune system. So if you've got an overactive immune system, the intelligence in the herb and the plant is to work with the body to bring that down. And if you've got an underactive immune system, it helps bring it up, which is something really cool about a lot of the herbs and things that we may recommend. So Matt, is there any particular herb or formula that you wanted to start with? And we'll go one by one through some of our favorite things to help with the immune function.
So I love Astragalus. Now, if you go back, there's another video we did on it. It's old Chinese herb. It's super good for the immune system. It actually truly lifts up that first part of the immune system I talked about. So the Th1, the T helper cell 1 response, but it also is really good at regulating the Th2, that remembered response of the immune system. It's just really good to have on hand. It's also good for the kidneys. And if you go back to that video, you can see that. So I like it, especially if someone who has kidney disease and they want to build their immune system up. Really, really nice. I take it every day. I take it every day. There's another herb that I like, and it's less common. It's called Isatis, Isatis. It's also known as woad, woad, W-O-A-D. And in Chinese, it's called Dan Qing Ye or Balangen, depending on the version. Super good, antibacterial, antiviral, really good broad spectrum antiviral, antibacterial, antifungal. And I've been taking it every day over the last 10 months. Those are two of my favorite herbs that are very safe to take for most people every day. There's another one that I love, which is called Camu, and I'm sure you've known Camu. It's a berry that comes from South America. Why do I love Camu? Because it's a really good, awesome, safe way to get super high potent food-based, plant-based vitamin C. So when vitamin C comes in let's say an ascorbic acid supplement, it's just ascorbic acid with none of the other carriers that our body's used to getting vitamin C from, say from an orange or a tangerine or a Camu berry. So you get this full spectrum, broad spectrum vitamin C. And we know that vitamin C is very, very important for a number of different components of the immune system, and it's very anti-inflammatory. With people where acidity is an issue, and if you look at our other video on pH and understanding pH in kidney disease, I'm really a strong proponent of staying away from like ascorbic acid or buffered calcium ascorbate. So these are common ways people try to get vitamin C, but they're hard on a system that's already disrupted. And if there's kidney issues, it's best to get it from a plant. And Camu is a really, really safe way to do that. Another safe way that Fiona has mentioned in these videos is cherries. So acerola cherries are a great way. But those are just three things that I would throw out there. And I guess one fourth one that you'd probably riff on too is vitamin D, which is like we actually get from the sun. Sunlight hits our skin, and through a beautiful, amazing, complex, innate reaction, your body produces vitamin D. You also produce vitamin D in your gut, which is why it's so important to have good gut health. And you can click below and go to kidneycoach.com and get our recipe book so that you can be eating on awesome ways to boost your gut. But vitamin D is amazing. I mean, it's so critical for the immune system to both fight things off, but it also regulates autoimmunity. So when Fiona was talking about autoimmune stuff with the kidneys, it's really, really important. So I'll stop there and turn it over to you.
Sure. So I'll come back to some of the herbs you said. So Astragalus, how do you say it again? I can never say it very well.
Astragalus.
Astragalus, Australian, or I think in the UK, they call it Astragalus as well. So it's, as Matt said, it's an immune stimulant, and studies have shown it's used to prevent viruses and bacteria such as the common cold and influenza and things like that. And the way it does that, it increases something called phagocytosis, which is the body's ability to basically munch up viruses and bacteria and fungus and things like that sitting inside the body. So phagocytosis is what was that?
Pac-Man,
Pac-Man, exactly. It is exactly Pac-Man. So it's neutrophils come along and they, actually monocytes. So you've got all these different types of white blood cells, and I won't get technical, but monocytes are the ones that eat up viruses. And then you've got your neutrophils, which sort of do more your bacteria and things like that. So they come along and munch all of that up. So Astragalus increases the rate at which the little Pac-Man cells go along and eat things. It also increases antibody production. So that's that part of the immune system where Matt talks about memory, and that so when you create antibodies, your antibodies hold the memory of something. So the more antibodies you make, if you ever get exposed to whatever it was, again, your body's got a memory to make sure that it then boots out exactly what cells it needs to kill it in the future. The other really cool thing that Astragalus does is it increases the natural function of natural killer cells. So they're a part of your immune system, and natural killer cells, they're very well named. They kill things that aren't meant to be in our body. And it also increases something called secretory IgA. So in your immune system, you've got these 4 immunoglobulins. You've got immunoglobulin A, immunoglobulin E, immunoglobulin G, and immunoglobulin M. And immunoglobulin A, man, they're hard to say fast. Immunoglobulin A is the first line of defense in your immune system, and it coats all your mucous membranes. So it sits up through your nasal passages, and actually it's all the way through our gut, believe it or not. So topic for another day, but we find people with autoimmune diseases such as lupus and maybe IgA nephropathy and things like MS have low levels of IgA in the gut, and that gut immune surveillance has been lowered, and so you're more prone to things like food allergies and chronic immune, if you get gut stuff and things like that. But especially through the sinuses, you want good levels of secretory IgA through there, because as a bacteria or a virus lands into the nasal passage, your IgA or secretory IgA levels can signal to the immune system to boot that away. So, Astragalus will improve that. So it's really cool. And then in people with low white blood cell that have low white blood cell counts, again, I see this all the time in autoimmune diseases. Astragalus supplementation has been shown to significantly increase the number of circulating white blood cells. And your white blood cells are the guys that are your immune system. So they're made up of your eosinophils and your basophils and your neutrophils and your monocytes. So you want to make sure that you've got enough of those floating around, because that's where your immune system is. So Astragalus overall boosts the number of that. So that's one of my definite favorite herbs. I also have to agree with the old vitamin C and vitamin D. And just to quickly add to that, vitamin D enhances monocytes and macrophages. So I've mentioned what they are. And it also decreases inflammation through a decreased production of the inflammatory cytokines. So the cytokines are when you have a reaction to a virus or something like that, you produce all these inflammatory cytokines. But often long-term, our bodies lose the ability to turn that inflammation off, whether it be due to long-term stress, things like diabetes, medications, environmental pollutions. I mean, we're all exposed to this stuff all the time now. So what vitamin D helps to do is it helps to turn off chronic inflammatory states. And you'll find in a lot of chronic conditions, especially things like MS, lupus, and it can be a side effect of certain viral infections, they call it the cytokine storm. And that's where cytokines just get out of control. And so it's like this crazy storm of cytokines, and that really damages tissue in the body from just huge amounts of inflammation that the body cannot get on top of. And inflammation is very damaging to tissue. So vitamin D helps turn off something called an inflammatory cytokine storm, which is amazing.
When we saw that with SARS, the sudden acute respiratory syndrome, that cytokine storm was what created all the really dangerous breathing issues. And there's really cool studies that now people are talking about now about vitamin D and calming that, especially relevant to breathing. Because when the cytokines come, you get sclerosis or you get fibrotic stuff in your lungs that people have a hard time breathing. So, you know what's so cool about vitamin D? Sorry to jump in, but I just wanted to say this. It acts like a hormone. So also, if you've struggled with hormone issues, you know, I work with a lot of men with low testosterone, and one of the most important things is to get them on vitamin D. Women with altered hormonal levels of any variety benefit from vitamin D. It's super, super neuroprotective and really good for depression and anxiety.
Yeah.
It's being a bad person, it will make you a good person. I don't know about that. Some people need more work than we can help them with, but it is really good for the brain.
It is amazing for the brain. I mean, obviously I've got a special interest in multiple sclerosis with my background, and the studies in vitamin D and MS, and you know, there's this thing called the Coimbra protocol where they use very high doses of vitamin D in people with MS, but with lots of other autoimmune diseases. And they've got a Facebook page, and it's amazing to see the results people are getting with big doses of vitamin D. And I know studies show that if you've got adequate levels of vitamin D, you're far less likely to get sick. So it's a really nice preventative thing that we can do to make sure that we have the levels of vitamin D. And the stats are quite scary on how low, especially when people drop into winter, because people either are inside all day in front of computer screens and not getting outside, or people aren't eating the foods that are high in vitamin D, which is things like oily fish, like sardines and things like that. People just don't eat, and organ meats, I think, are quite high. People just don't tend to eat those sort of cycle foods anymore. So a lot of us are vitamin D deficient. So really important thing there is a preventative as well as, boosting immune function as well. So another one that I love is shiitake mushrooms. So I'm sure you'll have something to say about this, because it is obviously something that comes out of traditional Chinese herbal medicine. And interestingly enough, I eat and cook with shiitake mushrooms every day. I take it as a supplement as well, just to keep my immune system boosted all the time, because there's some really cool studies done on shiitake, and especially an extract of it called AHGG. That was really shown to be very protecting to the immune system. But it's something I take all the time, and I cook with them and use them in cooking every day. They're packed full of B vitamins. They're a really good source of zinc, which zinc is a really great nutrient to boost the immune system. It's also they're also high in selenium. So shiitake mushrooms, they've been used traditionally for eons. They're traditionally used for things like cancer, people that have got chronic long-term suppressed immune function, or balance, again, that balancing of the immune function, like autoimmune diseases. We use them for diabetes, for people that have environmental allergens, so people that are sneezing and things all the time. Shiitake can be amazing that way. Chronic fungal infections, frequent colds and flus, bronchitis and bronchial inflammation. Shiitakes are really rich in the bioactive compounds such as polysaccharides, sterols, and terpenoids. And they all stimulate the immune response and have an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effect. So it's also high in something called beta-glucan. And that's where you'll see, if you go and look up beta-glucans in cancer studies, you'll see a lot of information there. But beta-glucans enhance immune function by boosting the function of white blood cells, including things like your natural killer cells and your macrophages, and interferon, which again, interferon, there's lots of studies done back in the 1980s by a woman called Judy Markovits, who worked at the National Cancer Foundation looking at interferon as a major cancer treatment, and she was really pioneered a lot of that stuff. And again, shiitake mushrooms also increase my favorite secretory IgA, first line of defense, through your mucous membranes, which helps to protect against viruses and bacteria. So I think a study showed that eating shiitake mushrooms, so that's just eating them, not even encapsulated form. And here in Australia, we get them from our good organic grocer, but eating shiitake mushrooms for 4 weeks improved immune function by increasing gamma delta T cells, natural killer cells, and secretory IgA, and lowered inflammatory markers like C-reactive protein that we often see in chronic inflammation. So, they're I love good old shiitakes, and you've mentioned that. And then maybe one of my other favorite herbs is Andrographis, which I think is one of you like Andrographis as well, right? Because that's a Chinese herb, Andrographis, yeah?
It sure is, and it's strong stuff to knock out an acute infection of any variety. It's a very cooling herb. So in Chinese medicine, as you know, we qualify herbs based on their properties. So is it warm? Is it cooling? Is it hot? Is it cold? Think of it like when we get an infection and our body's mounts this huge inflammatory response, it's a very cooling herb. So it kills things, but it also has that effect of like cooling down fever, helping the body get rid of the infection and all of the cytokines that go along with that. So again, it makes sense because it's a cytokine quieting herbal herb. So very germane to the conversation today. Yeah, I love that. I love that plant.
We know it, and again in Western herbal medicine, we call it the king of bitters because it's a very bitter herb. So
yes,
it's liquid form. It's actually quite hard for people to tolerate. I will say Andrographis is one I take all the time as well, because I'm pretty sure my MS was caused by a chronic viral infection. And so it's one I tend to stay on. And I cannot take it on an empty stomach. Because it's bitter, it has a stimulating effect on the liver and the gallbladder. So it works on those organs as well. Great to improve digestion and things like that. But I have to take it on a full stomach, because if I take it on an empty stomach, nausea straight away. And then I'm hating on my Andrographis, which is also really cool. So I'm pretty sure Andrographis increases natural killer cells, which is the way that it works as well. So another really cool herb there. We should probably mention some basic lifestyle things like getting adequate sleep.
Sleep is huge. Like, people who don't sleep, I mean, there are so many studies that show this, and most people, I'm sure you see this, Fiona. I recently heard a study that said it was something like 2/3 of Americans right now are not getting proper sleep.
Wow, that's a lot.
You know, if people have concerns about the immune system, and we talk about different mechanisms by which we can try to block ourselves off from immune challenges, when we're not talking about how much people are sleeping, we're doing people a huge disservice. I mean, and for people with kidney disease, it's critical that we sleep. I mean, it's just critical for brain function. A little bit of sleep off, regardless of what anybody says, your brain's not going to work as well. It's huge, Fiona. It is absolutely huge. And in that other conversation we had recently about an herb called Schizandra is a great, it really helps people sleep well. There's lots of different ways to improve sleep, but yeah, sleeping good, having good sleep hygiene is like critical.
Yeah, and there's a great book called Why We Sleep, and I forget the author's name, but he's got a TED Talk as well, and it was amazing. I did a podcast on this ages ago, and we can link that all below. But studies showed that people that weren't getting into deep wave recovery sleep, you've got something called spindle cells in the brain, and those spindle cells are what lay down long-term memory. So if you're not dropping into these deep delta brain waves and getting adequate deep sleep, and people are sitting up and more around the REM phase and shallow sleep, the spindle cells don't convert short-term memory to long-term memory. So your memory is impaired, everything that we said about the immune system. And then there was, I think it's testosterone levels. So men that slept less than 5 hours had hugely reduced testosterone levels. The studies were crazy, actually. So the research shows minimum 7 to 9 hours sleep, finding where people fit in that window, but really 8 to 9 hours. And the studies also show, and this was a Chinese medicine thing I learned off my Chinese medicine teacher at uni, that every hour of sleep that you get before midnight is worth 3 after. So in effect, going to bed earlier is where the body does most of its recovery. So those night hours that get to bed at like 1 o'clock, and I've got patients that do this, and then sleep across till 10, that sleep is a lot less restorative than, say, going to bed at 9 o'clock and getting up at 6 a.m. So sleep, massively important. And we should also mention like exercising. We know, Matt and I are both exercise proponents, that exercising is a really great way to balance and boost the immune system. We know that exercising increases clotho.
Yes, totally. Vitamin H, water. Most people are dehydrated. It's amazing. 2% dehydration throws off your cognitive function significantly.
Yes.
So, yeah, vitamin H and love. Feeling love.
Yes, love.
Friendship and relationships. This is big stuff. Feeling connected.
Yeah, and there was that great research done, and I can't remember who it was by. This is, I think Tony Robbins. Tony Robbins done it, or I'm going back to when I worked in Canada with a chiropractor, but I remember we used to do these presentations and showed that laughing and love increased secretory IgA, which again we've spoken about as your first line of defense. So yes,
so good.
All of that good stuff. And then eating well. Like, we know a diet high in sugar really drastically reduces the function of the immune system. Having your green juices like Matt, intermittent fasting, if you're able to do that with diabetic issues and blood sugar sort of stuff, but then eating lots of fruits and vegetables and foods high in phytonutrients, they're all going to be great ways to help bolster and boost your immune system. Staying away from the fried, fatty, sugary stuff, and alcohol, great way to lower your immune system. Matt and I both celebrated New Year's with these kind of drinks in hand.
I had a little bit of natural root beer with a bit of cane sugar. That was my celebration. We're not asking you to be teetotalers, but man, just drinking alcohol before you go to sleep dramatically reduces your sleep quality, like significantly.
Yes, absolutely.
And just a little bit of sugar lowers the white blood. Fiona talked about white blood cells. I mean, it's like 4 hours. They're basically like.
Exactly.
What? So, I mean, it really has a dramatic, instantaneous effect. So, yeah, think well, move well, eat well, love well, and those are my faves.
Yeah.
We'll talk about this in other videos, but I practice a form of breathing every day. I do some yogic breathing every day. And then I do a form of meditation where I meditate twice a day for 20 minutes. That's just what I do. There's many varieties and forms of it, but meditation is awesome for your immune system as well.
Yeah, Matt and I are both massive meditators. So I'm like Matt, I meditate twice a day, anywhere from an hour twice a day, right up to 4 hours if I really need it. And I also do breathing technique. I like Wim Hof, and I do cold showers, and cold showers have been proven to really improve the immune system. So Matt and I both remember we were in Brighton and we were like, let's go and swim on the beach in Brighton. It was in the middle of winter and people were like, what are you two going to do?
I live up here in the Rocky Mountains, so we have cold water year round. I love it. I'll just go and sit and pop in.
Yeah, so good for you. But yeah. There's some really cool things that hopefully are easy for you to incorporate into your life to boost your immune system. And remember, being stressed about things that you can't control are only going to suppress your immune system. So crack out a funny movie, connect with people that you love, have a really good meal, and take some herbs.
Yes, ma'am. All right, cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. Hopefully it's useful. Oh, we'll put in a link to a free download that you can, if you head across to kidneycoach.com, and then there's a great free download there where we'll send you all some information about how to boost your immune system. It's 7 herbs that will boost the immune system. That was written for this time. That will be really useful if you guys want.
And that's totally free. It's totally free. You just click on the link below and grab that, and then you have it. Share it with your friends.
Perfect. All right. Have an amazing day. Talk to you next time. Bye.